US President Donald Trump leads the Right Act to China.
Today I signed legislation and an executive order to hold China accountable for its oppressive actions against the people of Hong Kong.
India leads the charge to call out China's expansionism.
विस्तारवाद का युग समाप्त हो चुका है। ये युग विकासवाद का है।
UK and Japan join international effort for freedom of navigation. Will the free world unite to counter China? That's our top focus on India First.
When Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited Nimu in Ladakh, he said peace comes from a position of strength. As co-commanders interact in Ladakh, the issue remains, how will peace come in the Ladakh region? India is acquiring for the first time unmanned combat aerial vehicles, the Reaper drones. Take a look at the images that we are putting out on our television screens. You're looking at drones. So far, they were carrying out surveillance operations, but now the same drones can deliver Hellfire missiles. They can rain hell on the enemy that violates the sanctity of our borders. God forbid, should the balloon go up. The question still remains, will the free world unite to combat an aggressive China? US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has said that democracies will push back against China. Another very strong statement coming from the United States government, where Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has talked about his conversation with External Affairs Minister S Jaishankar. They've talked about how India and the United States need to come together to combat China's expansionism. Secretary Mike Pompeo also spoke about India banning 59 Chinese apps and the United States taking action against Huawei and ZTE. Incidentally, India has also banned both Huawei and ZTE from 4G upgrade. The United Kingdom has announced that they will not have Huawei in 5G upgrade, but that's of course post December 2020, and all Huawei parts have to be out of UK's network service providers by 2027. But Mike Pompeo insists that the free world, that democracies will push back against China's belligerence. Remember, Prime Minister Narendra Modi had talked about this, that the era of expansionism is over. Before I get you more details on this, let me also tell you that the US President Donald Trump, he's read out the Right Act to China on coronavirus, on Hong Kong and on Huawei. In fact, Donald Trump went on to say that he had persuaded several world leaders to say no to Chinese 5G technologies. Now, a similar statement on ensuring sea lanes of communication are free and there is freedom of navigation. Japan and the United Kingdom are also joining in. India already is spearheading this move against Chinese apps. We now get to the latest about democracies against an expansionist China.
The tide is changing and Beijing is feeling the heat. President Donald Trump hardening his stance on China and ended Hong Kong's special status.
Today I signed legislation and an executive order to hold China accountable for its oppressive actions against the people of Hong Kong. The Hong Kong Autonomy Act, which I signed this afternoon, passed unanimously through Congress. This law gives my administration powerful new tools to hold responsible the individuals and the entities involved in extinguishing Hong Kong's freedom. We've all watched what happened. Not a good situation.
China has reacted furiously and vowed to impose retaliatory sanctions over US individuals and entities.
美方阻挠实施香港国安法的图谋永远不可能得逞。
The US side's attempt to obstruct the implementation of Hong Kong's national security law will never succeed. In order to safeguard its own legitimate interests, China will make the necessary response and impose sanctions on relevant US personnel and entities.
如果美方一意孤行，中方必将予以坚决回应。
Trump even went on to say he had no plans to engage the Chinese president anymore.
When's the last time you spoke with President Xi of China? And do you plan to speak with him in the near future?
No, I haven't spoken to him. Well, no, I don't. I have no plan to speak to him.
The US is not alone in the geopolitical tug of war with China. Britain has ordered the phased removal of Chinese telecom giant Huawei from its 5G network, despite warnings of retaliation from Beijing.
It's a disappointing and wrong decision on Huawei. Now, I would even say it's not only disappointing, it's a disheartening. You know, when you see this company, good company who have been here for 20 years, they, not only invested 2 billion in this country, created 28,000 jobs, and pay the tax and contribute greatly to the telecom industry of this country and to the local community. That you simply dump this country, use British media's word, purge this country. You know, it's very disheartening.
Japan's annual defense review accused China of pushing its territorial claims under the cover of the coronavirus pandemic.
China has been unilaterally enforcing its power on the border between China and India, the Bhutan border, in the South China Sea, the East China Sea, and multiple places.
Remember, while addressing soldiers in Leh, Prime Minister Modi had called out China's expansionist designs.
विस्तारवाद का युग समाप्त हो चुका है। ये युग विकासवाद का है। विकासवाद के लिए ही अवसर है और विकासवाद ही भविष्य का आधार भी है।
US President Donald Trump has read the Right Act to China on coronavirus pandemic, on changing the status of Hong Kong, and on 5G technology. India led the charge, taking action against Chinese apps. Now other countries are joining in. The United Kingdom and Japan will join the United States to carry out freedom of navigation patrols in South China Sea. Clearly, the free world is coming together to counter China's expansionism. With cameraman Kripal Singh in Delhi, Gaurav Sawant for India Today.
Remember, it was India that banned TikTok. In fact, 59 Chinese apps in all. Now, the National Security Advisor of the United States has said that TikTok is not as harmless as some may make it out to be. So while you take videos and upload them, your information is secretly being ferreted out. At least that is what the United States intelligence believes, and is being shared with the Communist Party of China's government and intelligence agencies. This is a charge that TikTok denies, but the US is convinced it's not for children, it's not for people to follow TikTok because it's extremely sinister and dangerous.
China's expansionist designs are not just centered around Himalayan heights and the stormy waters of the South China Sea. The dragon is crouching in the digital world as well, using an army of hackers to attack rivals. No less a person than the US National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien has said that China is using apps like TikTok for espionage.
banning of sites like TikTok and WeChat, then according to him, China will lose their main source of espionage over the world.
The Trump administration has been actively moving to ensure the Chinese government does not get access to private information of Americans through telecommunication and the social media.
We are now evaluating each instance where we believe that U.S. citizens' data that they have on their phones or in their system or in their healthcare records, we want to make sure that the Chinese Communist Party doesn't have a way to easily access that. And so what you'll see the administration do is take actions that preserve and protect that information and deny the Chinese Communist Party access to the private information that belongs to Americans.
With the US mulling a ban on TikTok, Britain removed Chinese telecom giant Huawei from its 5G network plans. This after the US threatened to halt an intelligence sharing arrangement with UK over Britain using Huawei equipment.
Significantly changed their security assessment. The government agrees with the National Cybersecurity Centre's advice. The best way to secure our networks is for operators to stop using new affected Huawei equipment to build the UK's future 5G networks.
S Jaishankar.
When Centre banned TikTok and 58 other apps with Chinese links, the move was aimed at protecting India's integrity and sovereignty from prying eyes. And now the world is moving swiftly to deny China tools of espionage. Bureau Report, India Today.
To remove Huawei equipment from our 5G network.
India Today has the finest team of reporters on ground. Joining me on the show is India Today's Sandeep Unnithan, Executive Editor, India Today Magazine, Editor Defence Abhishek Bhalla joins us from Leh, and we have Editor Manjeet Negi joining us for more on the latest developments that are taking place along the line of actual control. But before I come to Manjeet and Abhishek, I want to come to Sandeep Unnithan. And Sandeep, the fact that US says democracies need to strike back, push back against China. They're also saying that TikTok is not as harmless as China makes it out to be. Is there an impression, Sandeep, that United States, Australia, Japan, United Kingdom, perhaps India, we're all coming together, free world coming together to combat an extremely belligerent and expansionist China, Sandeep?
Well, absolutely, Gaurav, and it would be naive to believe that what happened in eastern Ladakh was about a hill or a mountain or a lake. It was all part of a larger plan of a belligerent China muscling in on its neighbors all the way from Japan to the South China Sea, the Taiwan, and of course, India. And now the fact is that everyone seems to have woken up to this design, and there is a pushback that's taking place, Gaurav, as you just mentioned, this alliance of democracies. And we're going to see a lot more of it later this year when you have the Malabar exercises, when after a very long time, you're going to have the ships of Australia, Japan, the United States, and India exercising together to send out a very strong message to China that bullying is not going to work. Gaurav?
Fair enough. Stay with me for a moment. I have breaking news coming in from Ladakh and the Corps Commander's conversation that lasted over 14 hours at Chushul. India Today's Abhishek Bhalla and Manjeet Negi now get you the inside track on that conversation. Big story. What we are now being told is while China in principle agrees to disengagement, China is very reluctant. And this is where Chinese treachery is at play. China is reluctant to withdraw from the finger area, from the Pengong Tso area. It's currently apparently between finger 4 and finger 5. India wants China to retreat to finger 8. China agrees to disengagement, but perhaps not de-induction just as yet. I quickly want to cut across to India Today's Manjeet Singh Negi, breaking this big story. Manjeet, what more can you add? What happened in this 15-hour-long conversation?
Well, Gaurav, as per top government sources in India, they are saying that the yesterday marathon meeting was very fruitful in the areas near the, especially the finger 4. The Chinese troops have started dismantling their infrastructure from the black and green top. But at the same time, India has made it clear during the meeting that China will not accept, and India will not accept both sides going back to their permanent locations. And in the both sides will also agree that they will monitor and verify the disengagement activity in next few days around the July 21st and 22nd.
Fair enough. Stay with me for a moment. I want to bring in Abhishek Bhalla for more on this. Abhishek, India is standing firm. India says no halfway houses, no meeting anyone halfway, restore status quo ante as it existed before May 2020. Bring us details, Abhishek.
De-escalation can only take place if the Chinese move back beyond Finger 8, because India has maintained that the line of actual control runs through Finger 8. The Chinese had come in about 8 kilometers and they were camping at Finger 4 for more than 2 months. A few days back, yes, they did step back a little and went to Finger 5 area. That was as per the agreements of the initial first phase of disengagement. And adhering to that agreement, even India moved back from Finger 4 to Finger 3. But the big question is, India has been maintaining that there is no half measure here, because China needs to pull back beyond Finger 8, and that's what is the tricky point. That's the sticking point. We've been reporting continuously that Pangong Tso is the biggest flashpoint, and as far as de-escalation and disengagement is concerned, that's where the problem is going to be, because India is not going to be in a situation where there is any compromise. Other friction areas, yes, a 2-kilometer retreat has taken place. Once things get back to normal, patrolling of the Indian troops will continue at the line of actual control. But as far as Pangong is concerned, there are no half measures. The Chinese need to pull back beyond Finger 8, remove all their structures between Finger 4 as well as Finger 8.
Manjeet, Abhishek and Sandeep, stay with me. Rashtra Kavi Ramdhari Singh Dinkar had very important lines in a poem called Shakti or Kshama, where it said, Kshama shobhati us bhujang ko jiske paas garal ho, usko kya, jo vishhin vinit saral ho. Which means only the brave can forgive. A snake that does not have either venom or fangs is in no position to forgive. And that's exactly what Prime Minister Narendra Modi has also indicated, that peace comes from a position of strength. India is now in the process of acquiring unmanned combat aerial vehicles, the Reaper drones. Remember Sea Guardian drones? India was in talks with the United States of America, but the then US administration of Barack Obama wasn't in favor or wasn't as clear about unmanned combat aerial vehicles being delivered to India. But the Trump administration apparently is very clear about it. Sandeep Unnithan brings us this India Today exclusive.
A historic standoff, a massive mobilization, and two countries that came close to open conflict. India and China may have begun to disengage, but lessons have been learned. And China simply cannot be trusted. And as part of India's larger quest to beef up its defensive strength, it is all set to make a big move on the offensive strength front. While modern variants of the legendary Predator surveillance drone has been available to India for some years now, the current conflict has speeded up plans to conclude a multi-billion deal. It isn't clear precisely which variant the Indian forces will finally choose. But one thing is clear, India doesn't just want surveillance drones, but combat drones capable of hunting and destroying targets from the air. Often just called the Predator in reference to the baseline model, the armed Reaper is the one famous for raining hell on terror targets in Syria, Iraq, and especially in the tribal areas of Pakistan. Armed Predators come with Hellfire precision-guided munitions. weapons that are already operational on the Indian Air Force's Apache helicopters. The drones can also drop laser-guided bombs on targets from very high altitude. India currently operates a fleet of Israeli unarmed surveillance drones, which are seeing extensive use in the current Ladakh standoff. But armed drones like combat predators could be game changers. Acquiring combat-proven US drones would also make up for an imbalance caused by China's own deployment of Wingloom 2 combat drones in airfields in Tibet, and plans to supply those drones to Pakistan and other countries. If the Ladakh standoff has been a wake-up call, and if India has reacted by actioning a flurry of combat purchases, pushing through the long-pending Predator deal would easily be the biggest in terms of value, and also the most operationally significant. With Sandeep Unithan in Delhi, Bureau Report, India Today.
Sandeep, the acquisition of combat aerial vehicles, UCAVs, would be an absolute game changer. India's dream for decades may finally be coming true.
Absolutely, Gaurav. It's a very, very significant and potent addition to the armed forces, to the arsenal of the Indian armed forces. This is a capability they've wanted for several years. The numbers were far more than what we are talking of right now, but they have had to be scaled back for budgetary reasons. So you have the Navy that wants these variants of the Predator drones for patrolling the ocean and for hunting submarines. The Air Force for suppression of enemy air defenses, missions that are too hazardous to risk fighter aircraft. And of course, the Army would like it to carry out surgical strikes and pinpoint strikes across the border against hostile targets. So this is a very, very significant addition to the armed forces.
Okay.
And also, it's also
absolutely.
Gaurav, the countries that operate the Reaper, the United States does not sell it to anyone but its closest allies. The armed variants of the Predator drone, that is the Reaper, we are going to be one of the very few countries in the world to operate this particular variant.
That's a very big signal that's going out, Sandeep. I also want to quickly bring in Abhishek Bhalla. And Abhishek, Reapers aren't the only new acquisitions. There's a lot of weapon system, a lot of arsenal that's coming in to counter not just the Dragon, but also Pakistan that may try to snipe at our heels.
Well, and that's the reason why, Gaurav, today the Ministry of Defense has given the armed forces a leeway to do purchases up to 300 crores for their emergency procurement, because what the situation is, there is that threat of a twin war that we always talk about. The Chinese are indulging in belligerence, as well as there is action at the line of control, where Pakistan is continuing with ceasefire violations. So in wake of these circumstances, it's important that the armed forces are well prepared, and they do not have to wait for years to buy critical equipment, and this will cut short the time, what the Ministry of Defense is saying, and once a decision is taken,
gentlemen,
it will aid them to make sure that within a year...
Sandeep Unithan, Abhishek Bhalla, Manjeet Negi, Shiv Arur, Rahul Kanwal and I will be tracking developments on the story very closely. But remember, even Maryada Purushottam Sri Ram, for 3 days, he was next to the sea, requesting the sea to give us passage, to give him passage all the way to Sri Lanka. When that didn't happen, he brought out his bow and arrow. So, sach pucho to shakti mein hi basti hai deepti vinay ki, sandhi vachan sampujya usi ka, jisme shakti vijay ki, and we must never forget that. That is all I have time for on India First this evening. Many thanks for watching.
Hello everyone, this is Rahul Kanwal here. Hope you enjoyed this video. For the latest news and analysis, like and subscribe the India Today YouTube channel and don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated.